back on the Morning Brew with Friends talking art with our new friend Titus and our old friend Stephen Westman, the curious Townie.
Here I am.
So how did you guys meet?
About 3 weeks ago, maybe even 4 weeks ago, I went to the museum on a Wednesday for one of the spoken tours of the new Visualizing Albuquerque exhibition.
And this new show is supposed to be a lot of fun. It's all about art from Albuquerque, right?
It's the artist. And we'll let Titus explain it, but he's new to the museum. He's new to New Mexico. The fresh voice that I heard from him made me want to get to know him a little bit better, and it's been nice.
about Titus and everything he's doing.
I've told the story of the Garver couple over and over and over and over again. So there's two painters from New Mexico that are in the exhibit, one from the wife, one from the husband. And the story, anybody that was at UNM in the early 80s will get it, and I'll go to there later. But
excellent.
I started at the museum last year, and
so still really the new guy.
I'm very new. I've been there maybe a little over 6 months, and was basically brought on board initially, and what I've been doing this last, since I started working on this show, which, I don't know.
It's become an awesome hardcover book, too.
Yeah, so this is kind of a standalone book called Visualizing Albuquerque. That
available in gift shops everywhere?
Well, at least our gift shop. I think UNM's going to start
which is truly one of the best gift shops in Albuquerque.
Oh, it is.
It's really great. New management, Maureen, she's awesome,
Maureen,
doing
very
great
cool.
stuff. Well, on that note, she brought in these hats, so I'll just give you guys these hats.
All right, Townie's changing his hat.
Right. You don't have to wear them. Oh, well,
we can rock the
awesome.
Visualizing Albuquerque hats.
Very nice. We're plugging the show. That's good. So basically, the show curated by Dr. Joe Troggett, who was the former curator of 20th century art at the New Mexico Museum up in Santa Fe.
So what were you trying to do with the show? Trying to bring in art that brings in locals, brings in...
Well, it's really trying to get Albuquerque out of the shadow of Santa Fe and Taos.
Why is it that Albuquerque is that way, you think?
Well, there's a lot of historical reasons for it, but basically you had European and European American artists who kind of discovered Taos and Santa Fe in the early part of the 20th century, and put New Mexico on the map creatively, artistically. But Albuquerque always sort of had activity, but was known as a commercial center, and this is still true today. But really since the war, largely because of the university, Albuquerque has been a real locus of incredible artistic creativity.
It has been amazing. Albuquerque artists, you know this, a lot of our friends, Steve, have to go up to Santa Fe. They have to go to Taos to sell their work.
Right.
It's very tough. I mean, I don't know if you have any insights coming from, you got your MFA at Yale. I don't know if there's any, you've been teaching in Kansas, you've been teaching all over. I mean, is there anything that you can draw to say, well, this is one of the reasons why Albuquerque never really became even though we're only 60 miles away?
Well, one of the reasons that it's been so creatively forward-looking is the lack of that commercial aspect.
The irony
because there's no galleries here. So people are here, they're teaching at the university, they're graduated from the university, and they're just making work because it's what they want to see.
So when you went to go put together a show like this, there must have been a ton of great stuff to just find.
It just meant digging through the racks. For instance,
did this come from the permanent collection at the museum, or is this stuff that you got new?
95% of it is from the permanent collection. So it's a really great way to feature the collection. I've had relatives coming, even in the short time that I've been living here, and asking when we go to
the show.
Yeah, so here you can see it's this really gorgeous.
I'm mesmerized by the whole thing. It's beautiful.
And you can see there's cars, there's early modern painting next to, a Pueblo pottery.
Was that a Johnson painting, it looked like?
It was a Johnson painting. I
love his work. Absolutely. Well, those of us that went to UNM, we all had to go to the Johnson Gallery.
Right.
Of course. It's just great stuff.
Well,
but is there an Albuquerque aesthetic? I mean, I'm looking at a lot of these photos here, and a lot of them are really bright, bold colors, and a lot of them are modern abstract.
I hope everybody gets to see the show, and for instance, in the lobby, you have a Folsom Point from 12,000 years ago, as well as a giant picture of the Trinity explosion next to the Jack Garver painting. So in this one room, and there's also some Spanish retablos and Pueblo pottery.
So you went all the way back.
So in one room, you basically we sort of cover 12,000 years of work. And then as you move through, you get in more of the nuances. So because of the university and Raymond Johnson, modernism was very important here.
Right.
And it was this real hotbed of modernist activity.
It was.
Stuff that was happening here that was as cutting edge as anything that was happening in New York, but kind of off the radar and unseen still to this day, like Jack Garver, who's this forgotten artist, but was doing things that rival Jackson Pollock, you know, in the
as
late
creative,
40s.
as interesting,
as creative,
mind-blowing.
as interesting, as mind-blowing. And even more so because of the obscurity, the utter poverty these artists lived in.
Right.
But then, you know, it moved through, modernism became the style, and this became a real place. A lot of California artists were coming. And then there were responses. So when we saw, like in this shot that's behind us right now, you have Francisco Lefebvre, who is a Hispanic muralist. You know, that painting right there was a backdrop for a public access television show.
That's excellent.
On Hispanic issues. So, you know, there was pushback against that modernist thing, and these themes get explored through
Outside of Albuquerque, are we known as that kind of town, or is that something that when you came here, you started to realize it?
Well, that's a wonderful thing about being from elsewhere. You know, I've lived in LA, Chicago, Dallas, New York, grew up outside Denver, went to school in Kansas City. You know, so I've been kind of around the country. I've been involved in all these different art worlds. Including the big international ones and all of that stuff.
How do they see Albuquerque?
They don't.
They don't. We're just not even on their radar.
It's not on the radar, but the visualizing Albuquerque is part of this on the map exhibit.
And literally, this is literally to put Albuquerque on the map. Is
Yeah.
the idea with this show.
So it's a
And
collaboration of all these arts organizations in town. It's going on, started in January. It's going through June.
I went to the show at
And
516
you can
Arts.
see, you know, it unfolds into a literal map. And it's visualizing Albuquerque is part of this effort to put Albuquerque on the map. So we've had ads in the New York Times, Art in America, you know,
There's a
national
real
publications.
marketing push around this to get people to know that we really have a lot of art here.
Yeah.
New Mexico isn't just Santa Fe and Taos when it comes to art.
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
It's
the show
really important. You know, on the cover of this, you've got Joel Peter Witkin,
Of course.
who is, you know, internationally renowned.
One of UNM's favorite sons, too.
That's right.
He got his photo degree at UNM and went on. He's got tons of books out. He's the guy that anybody in art school anywhere studies.
That's
His
right.
piece in the show is haunting. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely haunting and poignant and beautiful, and it's
And he still
also
lives here.
in this shot. And he's always lived here. He still lives here. I never really realized that.
Super famous art star, and I
Yeah.
see him at the Smiths.
Yeah.
I see him at the Smiths on Yale.
we have some super famous art stars living here. So,
Right, it's amazing.
yeah.
And a lot of his models, too, are locals, which is great. Well, the story behind Witkin's work, for those that don't really know Witkin's work offhand, it's very creepy, and it's really kind of interesting, and lots of, he photographs a lot of cadavers, and he dresses them up, and it's very, you know, art world interesting stuff.
And people with disabilities, and he
yeah.
puts them in these tableaus,
Right.
and it's
And a lot of that came from
very
what I heard was
controversial.
that when he was at UNM as an undergrad, one of his best friends was the guy who was in the biology lab at UNM. And they ended up becoming friends and just photographing stuff, and it took off, and he found he had a real aesthetic for it.
Yeah.
And you don't find those, you couldn't do that at any other school. You couldn't go to maybe Yale and find that friend who is in the bio lab who will let you photograph stuff. It
I mean,
only
these things
happens-
happen, but there's something about Albuquerque. It's, you know, just like meeting Stephen, things happen here, synergy. It's like the biggest small town I've ever
Right.
been in. So, I actually, as a working artist myself, my wife, we moved here because she got a job teaching at UNM. So we're joining in this tradition I've realized now working on this exhibit of just, you know, all of these incredible artists coming from all over the world and landing here to teach, but then becoming a part of the community and experiencing this kind of small town, big city crossover
So,
vibe.
real quickly, what's your favorite piece in the show?
Probably the Jack Garver.
Okay.
Which is this kind of abstract expressionist painting
And that's
from
the first one you
1950.
see as you
see
walk
it when
in.
you walk in the door. I was really excited. I found it on a rack. I'm sure it was already on Andrew Connor's radar.
The curator.
The curator at the museum, and I was basically brought in to assist him. in All Efforts Art at the museum. And I saw that painting, and I was just like, Andrew, what the heck is this? And
it's just mind-blowing. But then that's every piece, though, in the show is really like that. It's a chance to see, really, I guess, 12,000 years worth of art at the Albuquerque Museum. It's all related to Albuquerque. Check Titus's work out at TitusO'Brien.com, and we'll be back in just a
Gorgeous
second.
artwork coming out of him,
Right.
too, so
We'll be back in just a minute with more Morning Brew and Friends.
And go see this.
Go see the show. Pick
Thanks,
up the
guys.
book.
Oh, yes, book.
Thanks, everybody.